by Charlotte Bronte, Chapter 7.
In the previous part, as we remember, Jane was so unhappy.
Okay.
She feels lonely. In this part, she wakes up because of screaming. Everybody wakes up and worried about the nose. They call Mr. Register and ask him what was happened. He says everything is okay and says go to your bed and get sleep. But Jane feels that something goes wrong.
Yeah, Mr. Rochester calls Jane and wanted her to follow him to the corridor. Mr. Mason sits on a chair in the room. His shirt is covered with blood he injures. Mr. Rochester wanted Jane to stay with Mr. Mason while he got the doctor. Soon after he comes with doctor, Mr. Mason tells that Grace Poole bites him. Mason requests Mr. Rochester to help Grace Poole.
After this extraordinary event, Mr. Rochester was walking in the garden with Jane. Nearly the sun rises. Jane tells Mr. Rochester she is afraid of Grace Poole, and Grace may hurt Mr. Rochester someday. Mr. Rochester says Grace will not hurt him, and says he will talk some details about her to Jane.
But unfortunately, Jane pets the letter from Gateshead Hall. Her aunt reads hers. The letter comes from her cousin Eliza. She started a journey to her aunt's house immediately. Her aunt was very ill. She even couldn't move. She doesn't speak to Jane. After 3 weeks, her aunt speaks to her at last and read a letter. The letter was 3 years old. It was from Jane's uncle and it was talking about his own money. He was a rich man and after his death, he would like to give all money to Jane.
After that, Jane's out to write a letter to Jane's uncle and says that Jane is dead. Jane died at Leawood School. Then she's sorry from Jane.
Mrs. Reed died that night. Jane left Gateshead Hall. Mr. Rochester met Jane at Thornfield Hall.
Mr. Register guest had left, and every day Jane and Mr. Register talks together, and every day Jane loves him more.